We are our biggest enemy. We beef with each other more than any other race. No, we are not our biggest enemy. The beefing you're referring to takes place as a consequence of psychological destruction and financial disenfranchisement that creates a circumstance for the aforementioned beefing. Unless you are willing to make the claim that black people are just inherently violent, antagonistic, and or confrontational. I'm not so willing to make that argument. One, because I've been around black people, and two, because I am one. I've seen us in environments where we had no plex, no problems, no issues, and most of those environments were void of our oppressor. Residual effects of slavery and the time periods that followed swiftly after, such as redlining and Jim Crow South, are products of what made black people become the very aggressive individuals we are. If you were to take away all of those intentional mishaps that white people committed on our cinnamon and put us in a place where we were separate from our oppressor, do you think that black people would still be beefing? I don't. In fact, I think we would thrive damn near like we did in 1920 before they bombed all of our financial strongholds. I think our music and entertainment would reflect that of a happy and positive posture. I think our women would be less combative and more willing to do those things that keep men attracted. I think our men would be less of whoremongers and more of men that were committed to their women because they loved the family structure. I think drugs would be a thing of the past. Well, maybe not that liquor and greenery. But even with those, I think we would be less inclined to abuse them, and we would also change the method of consumption, less smoking and more edibles. I think drinking itself would curtail in the black community because we'd be less stressed about our environment and our circumstance. Our educational system would reflect those things that we want our children to learn that would be beneficial to our people as a whole. And to say that we are our own worst enemies is to dismiss and minimize the atrocities that other nations have committed on us. Are we allowed to start businesses in what we would call our own neighborhoods with the benefit of thriving? Not that I've seen Middle Eastern people occupy our gas stations and convenience stores, Asian people occupy our beauty supply stores. Side note is if the black woman's beauty needed supply. And everything else is chain franchised out to potentially white owners. What do we own? And our lack of ownership, is that by our own fruition, or is that because there is a system actively working to make sure that we do not own anything, even in our own environments? Stop the Asian hate, but nobody says get their stores out of our environments if they so worried about us hating them. Where's the stop black people hate? Oh. And if we wanted to leave, what spit of land do we have to call our own? There's no land mass large enough for black people to migrate to, that of which people would leave us alone. We are and always have been the spoils of war. And beefing with each other is simply the result of crime by proximity. We fight with each other for two reasons. One, because we're the closest, and two, because we're afraid of our oppressor, because they hold the power of the sword. And this is why they get rid of black revolutionaries that are not afraid to die. Because that spirit, encompassed in the entire black community, gives God but one of two choices. Allow all of us to die, or come back and protect us. And either of those outcomes we win, because we can either be saved by God or rid ourselves of the conditions that is the slavery we've endured since we've been here. Bars.